Welcome to Tao Living, the Art of Living podcast with your host, Luke Corletto, where you will be supported to remember that you are the driver and not the vehicle, so that you can walk your life in trust.
Welcome to the Tao Living podcast, the Art of Living. In this episode, I'm going to unpack, with your help, how true we are really being to ourselves. So this was inspired by a couple things. One, I just finished a client call and something came up, which I'll share in a second. And the big piece was a few years back, we were just completing one of our humanitarian mission trips in Brazil. Intense week, so I got up to walk the beach, to just decompress and be in nature, be by the ocean. Before many people were on the beach, and these huge birds came in and landed, and I was just watching the birds do their thing. And a local went by, and I asked him, "Hey, what's the name of that bird in Portuguese?" Desculpa, falo português muito mal. So he said, Urubu. I'm like, wow, that's beautiful. How do you spell that? And he said, U-R-U-B-U, right? And I didn't have pen and paper, but I was in my mind writing it down. And as I did that for the second time, which some of you it might have landed. Others, maybe like me, it hadn't landed yet. You are you. Be you. So that's the essence of this podcast, right? Urubu. You are you. Be you. Now here's the thing. How many of us are actually doing that? And for myself, for sure, for many years, I wasn't, yet I thought I was. And I can safely say for the tens of thousands of people I worked with, many people around the planet believe they are, and they're not. So let's unpack that, right? If you know you're not, cool, great. If you believe you are, let's see to what level that we can also set ourselves free at the next level, right? Or in this case, you. So one of the places is just like noticing your body, right? There's an old Chinese proverb, tension is who you think you should be. Relaxation is who you are, right? So that's already feedback from your body. If there's a lot going on, there's a lot to be said for that, right? So that's one place to look. Back to my client call, we were talking about facades, and she said just recently she really let go of this professional facade. She's still super professional, but putting on this air that she put out to the world. So that's a question for you right there. Do you have different faces that you put on to the world? A face when you show up for work, a face when you go to church, a face when you go to temple, a face when you go to sporting events, a face when you hang out with friends versus family, versus just you being you, right? Big difference. One of the places that we as people tend to do this is in comparison. Do this meaning not fully be ourselves. When we do the comparison thing, right? We look outside, we look at other people, and it's usually, there's an entire spectrum, but the polarity of I compare like, wow, I'm not doing that good, or I'm doing a whole lot better than that, right? Simple black and white kind of thing. Either way, it's still not that dynamic. So let's take a parallel from nature. Look at an oak tree. Do you think in the forest, the oak tree looks at the maple and says, oh, I wish I had your leaves or your bark. It's much smoother than mine. No, the oak tree is just happy being an oak tree, and the maple tree is happy being a maple tree. How often are you happy being you, right? So back to the facade thing, if you look that up, and I'm not talking about a building facade, I'm talking about the human condition facade. The definition is an outward appearance concealing a less than favorable reality, right? Facade. And that takes a lot of energy. But it also prevents you from being you, right? And then oftentimes when I work with clients, they're like, well, people just don't really understand me. I'm like, well, have you fully showed yourself? Right? Because we have this expectation to be seen, but we don't show ourselves, right? So people can only get what you're expressing and representing, right? Other attributes or ways we can tend to do that. A big one is acceptance, trying to fit in. Remember, when you were born to stand out, you can't fit in. So stop trying to fit in. And when you really get to the place, like it took me a long time to do this, but when you get acceptance as an inside-out job, then you stop playing thermometer and thermostat. If you don't know what I mean by that terms, there's another episode here in the playlist. Go check it out. Are you being a thermometer or thermostat? Basically, are you letting the environment or other people cause you to go up and down? Or are you setting the tone for your life, right? But good episode, more content in there. So back to that fitting in, and there's, again, tons of ways that we as people can do that. We can fit in a number of ways, and some of them are like by hiding aspects of ourselves. So let's say that you have a brilliant mind. You might reduce the expression of your intellect because you want to fit in with people that maybe aren't as intelligent, or maybe aren't as gifted athletically, or maybe aren't as gifted artistically, or linguistically, or any ways that you have an upper edge, right? And so we end up playing small to fit in, right? So I'm sure you've heard this by now, but it's worth the read again. The beautiful piece from Marianne Williamson, Our Greatest Fear, right? Our greatest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant and talented and gorgeous and fabulous? Well, actually, who are you not to be? You're a child of God, and playing small doesn't serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. You were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within each of us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give people permission to do the same. As we're liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others, right? And so the playing small part, that acceptance versus just show up, right? Now, again, remember that place of ego, right? There's the ego, and then we can have the inflated ego. That's most commonly understood, arrogance and cockiness, which is really just a cover-up, a facade for insecurity. But then there's the deflated ego that looks like humility, but it's based in self-worth and self-esteem. Low self-worth and low self-esteem, right? And that's forgetting who you be. The amazingness of who you be, right? So the part that I did not unpack in the beginning is the bird. Urubu is a vulture. Now, this vulture's out on the beach, and if you've ever seen vultures, or especially this one, they're not the prettiest birds in the world, but they're not trying to be another bird. They're being their vulture selves, right? So what are also the stopping of trying to fit in because of definitions by society of who you should be, how you're supposed to show up, whatever that is, in your job or your career, your relationship, defined by something outside of you, right? Now, if you're in alignment with that definition, great, you're congruent. But oftentimes we're running somebody else's definitions, like success. Look out in the world where people are really harming themselves, trying to achieve this ladder of success, and it's not even their definition, but it seems like it's the accepted definition. Well, if it's not in alignment with who you be, then rewrite the definition for yourself, right? That's imperative. Looks, everything, that you could be running someone else's script, not your own. And if you are, then of course you're not being who you be, right? So that's where the freedom comes in. When you allow yourself to be who you be. You are who you are, right? Urubu, you are. You be you. Again, sounds like nice and easy. How do you do it if you haven't been doing it? And at what level are you actually showing up in that capacity, right? One of the biggest challenges around that, I just recently did an online training called Ignite Your Next Step, get clear, unstuck, and move forward with purpose and passion. And in that we addressed limiting beliefs, right? Because we all have them. And what most people don't realize is, as neuroscience has proven, we think we're running our life with our conscious mind. And they said that's only 5% of the functionality. 95% is subconscious. And as Carl Jung said, until the subconscious or the unconscious becomes conscious, it will dictate our life, and we'll call it fate. So until you've done some kind of serious work to go in and assess that 95% of unconscious programming that's running your life, and most of that program was input by someone or something outside of you, right, starting back here, but we run it long enough and we believe it's ours. Until you go back and assess and go, that one's good, oh, that's not. Oh, that one's good, oh, that's not. Good meaning it's not in alignment with who you be. And that's where the work comes in. To get in there and assess those unconscious programs, clean them up, and get them in alignment with who you be. That's freedom. To rewrite the script, to get fully in alignment, so you can be who you be. If you'd like to play in that realm, I invite you to join me August 25 to 27 for a 3-day event, Life by Design, where we will unpack deeply for 3 days with an intimate group, only 18 people and me in the studio, the 8 critical domains of your life. And we'll go through and assess where the limiting beliefs are. Here's the beauty: when they're limiting beliefs, you're not aware of them until there's something happens where you get perspective and become aware of them. Because they're unconscious, right? So we have tools and processes to bring them up in the conscious awareness so they can be assessed. Yes, it's good, keep running it. No, it's not, upgrade it, right? So we go around the horn in these critical areas: health, finances, career, relationship. How do you recreate yourself? How do you, your personal development, right? The education of your well-being, community, spirituality. So yeah, I'd love to have you come play. Click the link below and it'll give you all the details. It is for everybody, but not everybody's ready for it. Meaning to dive into those 3 days of deep dive for a complete life transformation. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Tao Living Podcast. Until next time, abundant blessings. Ciao.
To connect further and dive deeper, you can always reach me at my website, loucorleto.com, LOUCORLETO, or in the social channels, Facebook, loucorleto.official, Instagram, Lou_Corleto, Twitter, Lou_Corleto, and LinkedIn. Until next time, remember who you be. Abundant blessings.